Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet an international guru on commercial real estate. He is the professor of real estate. Next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
So if you look at some of the top richest people in this country and you look at their portfolio, there's always going to be real estate in that portfolio. And this goes back to the beginning of time. You look at Jerry Jones. We all respect him for what he's done with the Cowboys. He also has vast interests in commercial real estate, including the Star and AT&T Stadium. To talk more about commercial real estate is my next guest, the professor of real estate, Greg Barron. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. Well, let's look at a guy like Jerry Jones, because I remember coming to Dallas in '92, and Jerry had already taken over the Cowboys, but he was also very shrewd. He was starting to buy up a lot of land off the tollway in a little town called Frisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so you've been in this business for 4 decades. You've seen 4 ups and downs. You've seen a lot of recessions. Let's talk about the age-old wisdom of getting into commercial real estate.
Okay.
So what would your advice be to somebody watching this for the first time saying, you know, is that for me? Do I need an advanced degree to be able to stick my toe in the water?
I don't think so necessarily, but I do think it, as all things that I get into, I'm only as good as those who have been mentoring me along the way. I've always held the position that you've got to have mentors in your life to be able to invest and show you things to keep you from getting bogged down in certain areas in finding real value. I also believe that you need to have people in your life where you can leapfrog some of the things that we've been through.
Yes.
I had a few of those in my life, starting from a very early age of 22, and I was able just to stay right with them along the way. Right. I was fortunate enough to be in meetings where I just kept my mouth shut and listened. And then from there, it just evolved. But ultimately, you've got to take a risk.
Yes.
Commercial real estate is not for the faint of heart, as a lot of my colleagues right now are finding out. I mean, we're in another cycle right now that's going to be very, very difficult, if not already. And with difficulty comes opportunity.
Yes.
We're in both difficult, it's a paradox. We're both in difficult times and we're both in very opportunistic times.
Yes. And everybody's a genius when the market is going up and prices are going up, and then suddenly you get hit with a speed bump. And you had that happen fairly early in your career.
I can't remember a cycle in my life when I haven't had it. You know, fortunately, we never took the big B at any particular time, but I've been in it since the late 80s, I guess. 81 is, let's see, when I started work, and then late 80s and into 2000. When we hit 2008, you know, my revenues went from 70 million to 5 million in a matter of 18 months.
Wow. And it keeps you humble. I mean, you've built a true empire. We're going to pull up your website, and as we scroll down the website, why don't you describe more about your company, because you offer a wide range of services, don't you?
Yeah, we've got I have 5 operating companies. We're in facility services across the country. We manage portfolios of commercial buildings. We're in 13 states and about 36 cities on a daily basis, ranging from Nevada all the way to Virginia, up to Minnesota, Oak City, Houston, Phoenix. So it's progressed over the years. So we have a facility services company that manages commercial buildings, complicated commercial buildings, with smart systems, that sort of thing. We're in real estate development. We're rolling out another fund here at the end of the year that we're getting ready to deploy to take advantage of the opportunities. We'll be primarily focused in multifamily, A- properties, 150 doors plus.
Yes.
We have a civil engineering and survey company as well in Fort Worth. We've got a couple of dozen employees there, from PEs to RPLS to engineering techs, that sort of thing. So we design subdivisions primarily for land development.
Yeah.
And then we just entered into the software space 3 years ago. We had yet another hopefully great idea to develop a software that was first for our clients.
Sure.
Because a lot of the performance evaluation that they brought us was sometimes on a big chief pad and a number 2 pencils, I like to say. I sat on the bank board of a public bank for some dozen years, and I was the one who rubber stamped anything over $1 million in the CRE space. And I always asked our credit officers, can you please bring me something that I don't have to retrain my eyes every time I see it? With the finance background, I could break apart a balance sheet and look at pro forma.
Right.
So 3 years ago, my CFO came to me, who's got a lot of information, a lot of background in Python and Java. He was a frustrated coder, and he said, Greg, we should do our own software. And I said, well, that sounds great. He goes, yeah, you take your single-space Excel spreadsheets and we'll code it, we'll package it, and we'll be able to really help our clients.
Wow.
Well, that was 3 years ago. Fast forward, and 7 figures plus later, 10 programmers, we finally have come out with a internet-based, subscription-based software to do performance evaluation on commercial properties.
And you can evaluate a property in a matter of seconds?
No.
Okay. How long? Okay, so you feed the information in.
I'm good, but I'm not that good. No, usually on these type of properties, it takes 3 or 4 days.
Okay, gotcha.
We can do it in an afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have seriously reduced the amount of time to do what they call financial modeling and sensitivity analysis.
Wow.
So we've taken all these complex Excel spreadsheets that were fraught with circular error.
Right.
And we have packaged it with 7 tiers of calculation to be able to do your data entry, and you can't move forward unless you've answered it right.
Wow.
So there's no errors unless you have data input errors. And we sequentially go down through it in the mind of a developer or somebody who's acquiring the property.
Wow.
So it's really cool. We're proud of it.
I think you're absolutely brilliant, and that's where all the money is these days, is in software. So congratulations.
We'll see.
First.
We'll see.
You're also a very popular author. We're going to put your book cover on the screen. Let's talk about the book, Resilience, Setbacks, Crises, Chaos.
I'm a journaler, and so I started journaling when I was in my late 20s. And every day I would have my reflective and meditating time in the morning, and I would write down a chapter or 2, regardless if it was good, bad, or wins or losses. I would journal, and then I'd write down my thoughts. Through that time, I accumulated literally volumes of journals that I don't go back and read them, but when I take it from my mind to paper,
yes,
it's emotional regulation for me. It helps me to move difficult situations here, and I review it. And sometimes I see my own survival mechanisms that are coming out.
Yes,
those things that I fall back into that I don't want to deploy.
Yes,
and then I began. The University of Texas at Arlington asked me to do a series of lectures on emotional intelligence. So I started to research this on a much deeper level, and so I studied those who embodied resilience. A lot of sports figures,
nice,
a lot of businessmen that have failed, sometimes because of their own poor choices, sometimes because of just the economic situations that they couldn't control.
Yes.
So I packaged it up in this 7 skills, just anecdotes, a few stories. You can read it in a night.
Wow.
My wife did. She called me out on it, actually.
Did she?
She said, what's this part about making your bed every day? Because I if you're going to write this stuff, you're going to have to live it every day.
She fact-checked you. I love that. I urge you to follow Greg on all his social media platforms because he gives away the gold. He gives some great advice. I found one of his tips. Let's go ahead and roll that video.
After $750 million worth of deals done, 1.5 million square feet under management, 2,800 projects engineered, 10 companies launched. After 37 years, I've got 5 lessons learned that I want to teach today. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, Greg Barron, Professor of Real Estate. Thanks for joining me today on my channel. I've got 5 things today that I want to convey to you. And if you want to know why I'm an expert of anything, it's because I've failed at so many things in my past. But I want to give you 5 things that you can work on today that maybe it'll help you. So number 1 is focus. You know, one of the few things I remember when I went to grad school was from my marketing professor. She said this to us. She said, if you try to be an expert at everything, you're going to be mediocre at most things at best. She said, you have got to focus until you become an expert, and then you layer it and you move on. So focus is number 1 on my list. If I could look back on my life, one of the things that I have a great weakness at is getting distracted. I get distracted with other business ventures. I get distracted with other ideas. I tend to think that I can be an expert at anything because I have codified knowledge. But the fact is, until I become totally absorbed in something that I want to execute, I don't need to move to something else. So as far as investing is concerned, we're bombarded with so many things that we could go after. As it relates to real estate investment and acquisition, or maybe even disposition, the number 1 thing I would tell you is concentrate on an asset class. Now, I've told this story a couple of times. I've got a company that we deal with in the North Texas area that only deals in one specific asset class. It happens to be Class B industrial. We've got we've got several others that only deal in multifamily. And as you pare it down, there's some that only deal with Class B plus multifamily or Class A flex space. So not to confuse you too much, but you really need to focus in on an asset class or an investment vehicle and get extremely proficient in this particular investment vehicle before you move to the next.
And obviously go to his YouTube channel to learn the other 4 tips there. But Greg, when you look at asset classes, I mean, one of the areas that you specialize in is multifamily. I mean, people always have to have a place to live. Talk about how recession-proof multifamily is.
Well, I would say that those who have popped in since 2020 wouldn't say the same thing, by the way, because they're trying to give their keys back or find a solution right now. As an asset class in this particular timing of the market, I would say multifamily is where we will be specializing in.
Yes.
We're going to stay out of office and retail and some other asset classes. But real estate always follows cycles. And as long as I've been in the business, matter of fact, on one of my channels, we talk about timing. And there's this cycle that's called Mueller. And you're either you're in a recession, or you're in a recovery, or you're in a development mode, and you have to determine which of those you're in. Well, right now, multifamily, nothing's come online in 2 years, and no new product has started. So there's going to be a depletion of the amount that you have, which means that those that are giving their keys back are going to be looking for opportunistic buyers. And there's not new product coming on. So it's geographically and demographically situated as well.
Yes.
I mean, just because I say multifamily doesn't mean I'm going to go to downtown Dallas and look for properties.
Right.
So that's just the asset class where our fund is basically going to center on for the timing of this particular market.
So where do you feel like we are right now in this cycle? We're starting to get the Fed easing rates, and there's that old saying, don't fight the Fed. Do you think we have kind of a nice recovery here in the next couple years?
Depends upon, I'm going to talk like an attorney. Which side of it do you want me to talk about? Again, if I got in 4 years ago, I'd say, no, this is the worst timing in the history, since 2008. I would say timing-wise, and again, demographically and geographically, it depends upon where we are. We're certainly expecting another 25 to 50 basis point reduction between now and the end of December. The bad news is it's going to be well into 2026 before we see some salient rates get back in to where those prior deals will pencil out.
Right.
So we've seen cap rates continue to climb and stabilize, which means valuations go down. We've seen interest rates be stubborn, but we've seen in the rental market, especially in Dallas-Fort Worth and Texas and some other markets like Phoenix and others, it's still going to be a good time to be in the commercial real estate business. I would say just hang on, work out your solutions, and buy my software, and you'll learn how to evaluate it. Not that I'm plugging today for that.
No, I love it. Greg, we have a couple minutes left, so look into that camera on the left and talk to the person who is thinking about putting their toe in the water.
Well, I would say I've got these three things that I say on my channel. It's educate, evaluate, so that you can execute. You're constantly in those three. Now, right now, we may not be in the execution phase, which gives you, as somebody who might want to be entering it, this great time to be able to educate. And education in everything of how to invest, and then evaluate. Get deep in evaluation and know how to evaluate.
That's a great way to end this segment. We're also going to leave you with his personal website, which is greglbarron.com. The great Greg Barron, the professor of real estate. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.